think I'm still on mute, guys. Let me try this again. Good evening. Welcome to the GTA Board Candidate Forum. My name is Lindsay Hack, and I am the president of the Gilroy Teachers Association, a special education teacher and parent of 3 children in Gilroy Unified Schools. GTA would like to thank our candidates for agreeing to participate in our forum, as well as those of you who are watching us from home. I would like to thank our moderators for this evening. Eric Davis is a history teacher at Mount Madonna High School, and Cynthia Duran is a kindergarten teacher in the dual immersion program at Los Animas. Our candidates this evening are Jonathan Hurtado and Michelle Nelson. They are running to represent Area 3. Our goal tonight is to provide an opportunity for the candidates to introduce themselves to our members, our community, and outline their vision for making Gilroy Unified an excellent place for students, educators, and families to learn and work. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Candidates, please try to keep to the time limit so we can make it through all of our questions. There may be follow-up questions as needed. We would like to emphasize that this is not a debate between the candidates, but rather a forum for them to introduce themselves and outline their vision for GUSD. With that being said, we will start alphabetically and then continue to rotate thereafter. We're going to go ahead and start with our moderator, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Lindsay, and good evening, everybody at home, and thank you for tuning in. There will be 10 questions tonight. I will read the question one time. We'll start with candidate Hurtado, and then candidate Nelson will answer the first question. I'll read the question one time just for our viewers, and so in the interest of time. So with that being said, here we go. Question number 1, this is for you, candidate Hurtado. Tell us about yourself. What particular experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as a Gilroy Unified board member, and why did you decide to run for the board?
Well, may I just start with a huge thank you to the Gilroy Teachers Association for hosting this forum. I think teachers serve such a crucial role in the classroom. I think the most crucial role in the classroom, because without them, our students wouldn't have an education and our country wouldn't be for the better for, till now. I am a student, so I have tons of experience working with teachers within the classroom. And that's mainly where I'm coming from as a 2020 high school graduate from Christopher High School. In the classroom, I saw a lot of policies the board was enacting that were directly affecting me. And I came to realize, not everything is sunshine and rainbows in Gilroy Unified, and there's some serious issues happening in the district. I think the first time I first became aware of this was when I was assaulted on Christopher High campus. I had to deal with administration and the Gilroy police, and really it opened to my eyes to just the lack of leadership within Gilroy Unified. I didn't speak with Officer Tarasco, the campus PO, till a year after the incident had happened. And when they personally asked me if it was a hate crime, I honestly couldn't say because I had no idea. My brain was going a million miles per hour, and they didn't give me the essential tools to travel through and navigate through this horrible thing that happened to me. And I think Gilroy Unified failed on that front. And this wasn't the first time. Soon after, there was an incident at Gilroy High School that sounded very similar, and I came to realize, well, this isn't just a one-off with me. This is a series of events happening, and there's a clear issue. So I became interested, and I started talking with my teachers. I started talking with administration and seeing, well, where can we enact change? And that's where they pointed me to the Board of Education. And since that moment, I went to every single board meeting. I saw Lindsay there a handful of times. I know we crossed paths. And I always made sure to sit right in the front so I could take it all in and hear everything and what every single board member had to say. Thank you.
And thank you, candidate Hurtado. Candidate Nelson, same question.
Hello, good evening. And I'd like to echo what Jonathan said. Thank you for hosting this. And Jonathan, I'm very sorry to hear that happened to you. It's not the first time that I've heard of an incident like that, whatever it was. And I myself have been the victim of a lack of follow through with the district. So I totally understand what you're saying. I come to this race with 39 years experience with Gilroy Unified. I was the GTA president for 12 years, and I was in negotiations with the district for 24 years. Many of those years I spent as the lead negotiator for the contracts for the teachers. And then I gradually weaned myself away from that role and mentored other people as they came on. And I continue to be a source of the history. So I have experience with contracts, negotiations, budgets. I served on 2 budget committees. This was before the current superintendent. I'm familiar with the education code. I'm familiar with board policies. I filed numerous grievances. I was a recipient of a leftover of a lawsuit that we filed against the district. I myself filed a lawsuit against the district. I've had good and bad experience with the district. I joined the negotiating team in 94, 95, and it was the worst year ever. We came close to striking. And then the next year, because there was more money, things were fine. The team went out to dinner and had drinks. I had my customary glass of water, and everybody else had something else. I've learned, though, that in dealing with the board and dealing with the superintendent and dealing with all the administrators, you have to separate the person from the issue. And I learned that from Jean Sakahara, who used to be in charge of human resources. And I try to focus on the issue as much as possible because we all have to work together the next day. I try not to burn any bridges, but having said that, I'm not afraid to be assertive when necessary. So I have taken the board to task in the past, and superintendents, the many we've had, as well as site administrators. So is that it? I'm done. Thank you.
Question number 2, candidate Nelson. What is the board's members' role and responsibility? How does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration?
Okay, the superintendent and the administrators do the day-to-day operations in the district. And the board's job is to set the policy for the entire district and evaluate the superintendent and the programs that are being presented. The board also approves the budget and approves all the contracts, approves outsourcing. And what I would like to do is explore as much as possible involving the teachers more and the staff more in making the budget decisions. Because in the past, the board invited and the superintendent invited a lot more stakeholder input. So there were committees to examine the programs and see if they were responsible expenditures. Each program was analyzed, and that stopped with the current superintendent, and it was more going to a board meeting when they'd already made up their minds and maybe having a sticky note on a poster. So I think that is one of the things that I'd like to change, to have more stakeholder input, real stakeholder input into the budget process. That's about it.
Okay. Candidate Hurtado, what is the board's members' role and responsibility? How does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration?
I mainly see the board's role as the body that votes on all the issues within Gilroy Unified and the policies that the superintendent brings to them and all the administration brings to them. And that includes doing the budget, bring outsourcing. Just the other night, there was a huge debate about outsourcing with the Gilroy police. So that they handle a lot of that and the financials of it. The first time I met the board, I went to the board and asked them if I could go to Russia with my class, and they of course approved. Right? Do we want to spend district money on such a trip? And they ended up doing so. But that also applies to teachers and like construction projects on campus. I think Ed Code describes the superintendent's role as the custodian to district files. So really the superintendent's handling and overseeing all of the paperwork that's coming in and out of district office and through each school. And like Ms. Nelson said, the day-to-day life, right? They're handling all these like requests that are coming in and information from each school, about, expenditures and, how curriculum is going. And also the board and superintendent go in and see classrooms, and they tour. And then the administration within each school, though, I'm pretty sure is the one who evaluates each teacher particularly. And that, of course, is information accessible by the board. And so that when we vote, we can make steady decisions that are affecting our community. And really, we're the voice of the community. We're the people who are giving a voice to the teachers, the students, the parents, and we're supposed to vote on how the community wants us to vote. And that is really the biggest, I think, issue that the board takes, right, is overseeing the district and making sure it acts on how the community wants it to act. And it's spending money how the community wants to spend money. That is really why I see the board as just a tool of the community.
Thank you. Moving on to question 3. One of the top priorities of parents and teachers is to assure the protection of our children's health, well-being, and safety. What will you do to ensure a healthy and safe learning environment for students and staff? And I apologize. Candidate Hurtado, you were up first on this one. Yes,
I definitely am going to put PPE as a huge priority coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic. It's going to be extremely difficult to have our teachers in the classroom, if we're putting our teachers in the classroom at all anytime soon. I think, the district needs to spend its money wisely on supplies that's going to keep our teachers safe and our students safe. You're seeing a lot of these new, inventions coming out with these plastic walls around tables at lunches and inside the classroom. And you're seeing these tables or these desks separate in the classroom. And I think we're going to have to really watch as some of these schools are reopening elsewhere in the country and see where we need to, follow suit. I think definitely all this is an experiment, and we're all seeing for the first time how this is affecting teachers and our students. And I think we need to put the health of our teachers and students first above all. And that, also goes even past the pandemic, right? Making sure our students feel safe on campus and they're not going to have any harm done to them, especially with the wake of the rising protests for Black Lives Matter. Our students feeling safe with a police officer on campus is also a very important thing, or even our teachers as well. Do they feel safe to come to work with this officer on campus? And are they going to get judged by the color of their skin? So I think that's my two biggest things is to work on is the inclusivity of everybody on campus, make sure they feel safe when they're working or learning, because really that's what the school is there for. To help and nurture students and teachers to accumulate human capital. And that is really crucial for our economy of our country, is to have human capital and to have good workers in the workforce. And we need to cultivate those workers with our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Hurtado. Candidate Nelson, same question.
Okay, so I like this question because this is why I got in the union in the first place. I was teaching science at South Valley in the old days, and the boiler kept breaking, and I put this on my website, I believe. We were freezing, literally freezing in the classroom. So what I would do is I would go in early and I would light the 16 Bunsen burners at the 16 lab stations. So when the students arrived, they could come in and literally do this over the flame. I'm not kidding. And I asked the principal to come in and see how cold it was. It was a science classroom. I had this oversized thermometer and it was freezing. And he came in for 2 minutes and he said, I don't feel anything. I think it's fine. But the periods are 45 minutes long, so 2 minutes wasn't enough. So I told the students, your homework tonight is to tell your parents to notify the superintendent that we're cold. One of the parents actually contacted the superintendent. The superintendent contacted my principal. I was called in the principal's office and told that wasn't appropriate and I would be written up. I went down the hall, talked to the GTA rep, said sign me up. She did. I was a member of GTA from then on. President called the superintendent, said, we have more things to worry about, and she's called and then the superintendent called the principal and said, never mind. And ever since then, I've been advocating for safe, healthy working conditions, whether it was the temperature, whether it was mold. I can't tell you how many times there was mold in a classroom, and I fought for the air quality. And the district gave itself credit, but it was GTA that pushed for the air quality. Code Red, if I can just say what that used to be in Code Red, used to have to go outside and lock the door because we didn't have Columbine locks yet. And when the new superintendent arrived, I explained to her about that. And she couldn't believe what I was talking about with kindergartners having to put desks in front of the door, 5-year-olds. So anyway, this has been my passion. Salaries, yes, but the working conditions. We're all in the same classroom. The teachers and the students are all in the same classroom. We breathe the same air and we have the same conditions. So that's always been a priority with me. Thank you.
Question number 4, candidate Nelson. Manageable class sizes are essential for a teacher to be able to deliver effective instruction and build strong relationships. In your opinion, what should be the class sizes for kindergarten, 4th grade, middle school, and high school in order to ensure effective instruction?
Ideally, I think that the class size in the primary grade should be 20-1. We tried to get to 21 when I was on the negotiating team. The best we could do was 24-1. But we really need to catch the kids before they leave the 3rd grade, because studies have shown that if they're not reading by the 3rd grade, they're going to be in trouble and they're probably going to be behind the rest of their academic career. So we need to put the resources there and keep the class sizes small. Yes, there's compensation if they go over, but that doesn't address the problem that you have too many kids in the class for that one teacher. In grades 4 or 5, right now it's 32-1. It'd be nice if we could have it 30-1, no more than 30. If you've been in one of the elementary classrooms, it's too small for 32. They're getting bigger. In the middle school, you take the class load of 204, divide by 6, you get 34 kids per classroom. I think probably 32 should be your max. And the problem with the secondary schools, it's a load overall for the whole day, and there's no cap for each class. And we've tried year after year to get the load for each class, and the district wouldn't agree to that. They said they had to have the flexibility. But ideally, I think that middle school should be 32, 9-12 should be 34. I mean, it's manageable, but it's not ideal. And intervention is 28. It should be no more than 20. We try to get the district to go with 20. If you're an intervention class, you need that extra attention, and 28 is almost like a regular class. So it defeats the purpose of calling it an intervention class. And PE is 42. That's way too many students, especially if the other PE teacher is out and the one teacher has to cover for the other person who's out. So yeah, I would push for class size. The problem is salary versus more teachers to reduce the class size. That's the conundrum.
Candidate Hurtado, same question. Question number 4.
I propose a progressive class size increase with each year. And I'm going to even push further and say we should have first and kinder at 20 max. And then continuing to add 2 each year. So 2nd grade would be 22, 3rd grade would be 24, and 4th grade would be 26, and so on until we hit 30 at 6th grade and have 30 be the max up until high school. Now I say this with low class sizes in elementary, because I think in elementary, it's so important to catch special needs kids early on before they go on to middle school and high school. And we really cannot, teachers cannot have a one-on-one with students early on if there's so many kids to keep track of. Especially in kindergarten and 1st grade, there's so much prep teachers have to go into before the class even starts, because the students can't do a lot by themselves. You're having to hold their hands and walk them through each activity, unlike high school where you tell students do this work and then you just do it, right? You can't do that with younger kids, and that's why we need to keep class sizes small for younger kids, because they have greater needs than older kids. And I mean, I proposed 30 for middle school and high school too, because when I was in high school, I was a part of a class at one point that had 57 students in it before they decided to take some of the students out and add an extra period. 57 students is way, way too much for any teacher to even comprehend. And by the time they took students out, it was still around like 40 students within the class. And they thought just because the classroom was larger that we could fit more students within it. And a lot of these students had other issues with them, or not issues, but needs. They were either English learners or they were special education, and they needed more help than what we could provide. And really that's the class I decided to take a leadership role in with the teacher, and because I had taken the class prior to that class, so I had experience of how the class should be ran. And I, the teacher, and the class aide for some of the SPED students together took on that 40 class, and we really had to struggle, but we were able to give the kids the proper education for that school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Hurtado. Question number 5. Candidate Hurtado, we're back to you up first. Students' mental health was a priority of GTA before the pandemic and has become an even greater concern since the school closures. Currently, Gilroy Unified employs psychologists, therapists, counselors, nurses, and academic coordinators to help support students with their mental health. Unfortunately, their caseloads are very high, and this makes it difficult for them to reach every student. For example, a school psychologist caseload can be as high as 1,700 students. Question: do you support lowering the caseloads of these educators so that they are better able to meet the mental health needs of our students? Why or why not?
I would actually like to start sharing a personal story I have with this issue. My sophomore year of high school, I was diagnosed with depression and had to be put on a 504 plan within Gilroy Unified. And the academic counselors promised me that I would have time to work with the psychologists and the therapists on campus. I would see them at least once a week. Sadly, I never met with any psychologists or therapists on campus in my entire time in high school. I simply slept through the cracks, just like so many students, and I honestly blame this on such high caseloads. I mean, there's just not enough time in the day for these therapists and psychologists to see each student or test each student. It's just simply impossible. And I think it's very important that we meet with these students with mental health being such an issue, especially with COVID-19. We're having to see the ASB at Christopher High School having to step up and take on some of this responsibility, posting motivational quotes and mental health activities on their social media sites. And that is so important, and I commend them for doing such. But I think it also needs to come from the district itself, and we need to support these kids as they're having spiked anxiety levels because they're scared they're going to get a virus and die. I mean, these children are scared out of their minds, and we need to support them through that. And this is on top of prior mental health issues they may have, like I have. So that's why I totally propose we drop the caseloads and add more psychologists and therapists, especially with younger students, because we see I'm looking at statistics, and younger kids are going to video games as a coping mechanism so that they can desensitize from the world that they're living in. And you're seeing kids hurting themselves because they're let's say breaking a TV out of rage. I was just speaking with someone who was telling me a story of a kid who broke his parents' TV twice and hung himself because he was so scared of what was going to happen after breaking the TV twice. And now he broke the TV out of rage because of video games. And these students need to be taught proper coping mechanisms that are healthy, like self-care and time management skills when homework, because right now there's just no support for them at all. And they're slipping through the cracks like myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Nelson, same question.
Well, again, going back to my experience with GTA, we pushed for reducing the caseloads because they are incredibly high. The recommended caseload in the country for a counselor, whether it's a counselor at the middle school or at the high school for the ACs, is 250 to 1. And that we're not even close to that. And for the psychologists, they say no more than 1,000, and they actually recommend 500 to 700. And I've talked to these people before and they're overwhelmed. They simply cannot reach people. Another problem is at the elementary sites, there is no counselor. There is no there's a psychologist, but the caseload again is ridiculously high. We do need support systems. And I have had students come to me in the later grades, and I looked up their records, and they had a history of violence and inappropriate behavior in the elementary school, and it wasn't taken care of when they were young. So by the time they get to the high school, they're pretty much out of control, and there's not a whole lot we can do at that point. Some of them are amenable to counseling, and some of them have reached that point where they're not open to it anymore. And so the teacher has no recourse but to just send them out of class because they're a disruption for the rest of the students, which is sad because there was the potential there, but the district didn't take care of it. So that potential was lost. So absolutely, we need to decrease the caseload so that we can take care of all of our students.
Candidate Nelson, school districts in California, including Gilroy Unified, provide public education to the most diverse students population in the nation. Do you believe this district has made adequate provisions for the education of our English learners, students of color, students with special needs, and gifted students? Please explain. Do you have a specific suggestion for improvement?
I think for ELLs, we haven't done enough. We still have far too many students who are with the system for years and years and never acquired the fluency that's required to give them that leg up in society. What I found discouraging was that the district expected the teachers to develop strategy after strategy after strategy and didn't really catch them again when they were younger enough and didn't involve the parents enough. A student can go home and read to a parent, even if the parent doesn't speak English, and have the parents sit there. I mean, studies have shown that children will read to dogs. We just need to get a little bit more creative and think out of the box for these students to pick up those reading skills. Students of color, I've seen it myself. This is a problem and we need to take care of it. We have clubs. The ASB does a pretty good job at Christopher, but we still have a ways to go. And people who violate the rules need to be held accountable by the administration a lot more than they have been in the past. Special education, I think we're okay. There's room for improvement. The district is a little bit shy of litigation. Parents are very educated now and they know what the rules are and they advocate for their students as they should. We need more training. The gifted kids are pretty set. We have the AP classes, and the only suggestion I would have is maybe expand the GATE program to all the sites and have maybe more after school programs and clubs for the gifted students. So that's about it.
Thank you. Same question for candidate Hurtado.
So I'd like to circle back to that class I took a leadership role in. It was a Drama 1 class, and we had 4 students who were English learners in the class with no translator aid at all. And so what ended up happening is the 4 students all spoke Spanish, and they joined their own little clique within the class, and they would speak Spanish to themselves and were not developing their English skills at all. And they would have another student come up with them, and the student would translate for them because there was no translator given by the district, and we were having to force it out of them. If they even wanted to ask for the bathroom, we'd have to say, please say it in English, and they could say it in English. They were very much capable, but I think because they closed themselves off from the rest of the class in their own little clique, they were weary of stepping out and joining the rest of the class, which I think should have never happened. And we should have had these kids more engaged in the class with speaking English. And I think that's a fault of the district. If we look at special education, I think drama is a great outlet for them to learn life skills. There's a specific class period where the SPED kids and Christopher come to the theater and they pretend like they're ordering pizza at a pizza shop, and they have to know the life skills. Oh, I gotta give them money. Oh, I gotta ask for what I want. And I think we should really expand that program to be larger than it is right now, because I feel like it gives them the skills they need for when they move on past 21 into, adult life, and they're having to be out in the world, ordering pizza for themselves. We need to prepare them to be successful. Moving on to the GATE program, I agree we should expand it to all 3 middle schools. I think it's absurd that a student who lives over by Gavilan College has to have their parent take them all the way to Brownell into town just for class. I mean, it's such a long drive in the morning when you're trying to get ready, especially for students who have a hard time getting up in the morning. We should expand the GATE program to all 3 sites, and we should also accept GATE students from outside of Gilroy Unified. Because I was a GATE student in elementary, and I was not allowed to go into the GATE program in middle school because I was a outside of district transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Hurtado. Moving on, we are going to circle back to you, candidate Hurtado. You're up first. Question number 7, for those of you keeping score at home. So, Proposition 15 is a proposed California constitutional amendment requiring commercial and industrial properties to be taxed based on their market value rather than their purchase price. This proposition would provide approximately $7 million in new ongoing funding to Gilroy Unified. Question, do you endorse Prop 15, the schools and communities first? Why or why not?
I fully endorse Proposition 15. I think that $7 million is going to have to come in real handy with the governor's cuts to education because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, we're going to lose so much money that $7 million is going to keep us where we're at right now and not go under. And I think it also reaffirms the Gilroy community bias against corporate America. I think it's all still fresh in all of our minds, Great Wolf Lodge trying to come in here and buy up land and put up in a lodge. And the Gilroy community spoke and they said they don't want a Great Wolf Lodge in their community. I think, it's reassuring, if we have this tax on commercial and industrial property, that, it's going to keep, these large businesses from coming into Gilroy, and it keeps our town small how we like it. I think that's really all I have to say about Prop 15. That money is just going to come in handy in so many ways, and we can use it in so many ways. That is so important that we get that money. And I think it's also very important to tell voters that it's not residential property that's getting taxed. It's just the commercial and industrial. So, those, parents who are worrying about, losing money in the COVID-19 pandemic don't have to worry about a new tax that's going to tax them on, property value that's extremely high because we live in California. I think it's reassuring to let parents know who may not be as educated as some of us that, this is actually extremely good thing in every single way possible.
Thank you. Candidate Nelson, same question.
And I have the same response as Jonathan. Absolutely, I'm for Prop 15, and I've had to explain it to friends of mine that no, this is not a tax increase on their residents. It's only for commercial property and industrial. And we're gonna need every penny we can find. And I wanna go back to the ELL question. One of the things that I think the district has done incorrectly is I've had students who didn't speak any English and they were put in my science class. So they had their original language, then they had to struggle with the English language, and then they had to struggle with biology vocabulary. It's totally unacceptable. They should have been put in more of an immersion class, immersion structure, in order to learn the language. It was not fair to the students. I had 2 boys from Syria, not a word of English, and they were put in a special program. We need more programs like that to bring those people up to speed. So I just wanted to say that. Our priorities are not in the right spot for the ELLs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Nelson. GUSD educators are some of the worst compensated in the county, and this contributes to 20% of our educators leaving the district every year, which negatively affects students. Do you believe Gilroy educators should be paid a living wage? If so, what specifically will you do to ensure they are compensated more fairly?
Well, again, with my experience with GTA, This has been a problem for decades, and the 20% has been around forever. When I was first president and I started to gather the statistics, there was a 20% turnover back then for decades. And teachers have complained about this problem every year. It's a problem for the students who don't have the continuity and instruction that they're entitled to. It's a problem for the teachers who stay here because they train people who come in only to lose them and they have to start all over. It's fiscally irresponsible because the district spends money training these people only to see them leave time after time after time. And I think part of my focus on the board will be to constantly push this idea that it's the people who count, not the programs. The district has this thing, especially in educational services, of buying the best, the shiny new program and trying it out without realizing it's the people who are delivering the program who are important. And they need to get away from that. One of my favorite things is before we had to take a pay cut one year, the district purchased a brand new language arts program, shiny new program, for $823,000. And everybody knew that we were going to have to take a pay cut the following year because times were bad. And the district went ahead and approved it. And guess what? We had to take a pay cut the following year. So I would be constantly advocating to increase the salaries so that we can try to reduce the number of teachers leaving this district. Thank you.
Candidate Hurtado, same question.
I personally believe that Gilroy Unified is way too top heavy. It makes no sense for us to have the 7th highest paying superintendent in the county, but the 27th highest paying teachers in the county. That doesn't add up. The teachers are the ones who are in the classroom working with students one-on-one and are actually working with these programs like Ms. Nelson was saying. And the superintendent is just in the office coming up with these ideas and telling the teachers, oh, this is what we're doing. It's way too top heavy. We need to increase teacher salaries and we need to stop giving the superintendent a raise. I mean, how is it that the board approves a raise for the superintendent just months after teachers were picketing in front of the district office? It makes no sense for them to do these actions. And if I'm on the board, I will make sure that will not happen again. I will not allow it. So, going to the next question, I'd say we take the salary out of the reserve because we have a lot of money in reserve and we could use that towards our teachers' salaries, the ones who are on the field, frontline workers working with these students. I think that's really all I have to say is just increase teacher salaries because it's way too top heavy. And one thing though is I do believe the district is doing this on purpose because I personally believe that the district is taking in new teachers to come in and learn experience and they want them to leave before they get on 4-year, before the teachers can realize some of the stuff the district is doing wrong. They don't want people coming in, staying long enough to see all the, the dirty stuff and getting dirt on the district. They want them come in and leave. And that it's not effective. We end up with classes like science where it's very hard to find new science teachers and there's just not enough to go around for every district. And we're the ones at the back end because no one wants to come work for us because we pay so low. Honestly, that's really the biggest issue with that is, our teachers' salaries. We need to pay our teachers higher. And that's really all I have to say about that.
Thank you, candidate Hurtado. So back to you. Question number 9. The state requires that school districts maintain a reserve of at least 3%. Gilroy Unified has a self-imposed minimum reserve requirement of 7%, but currently has a reserve more than twice that at 16.8%. Since the Great Recession, Gilroy Unified's reserve has grown from 7 to 16.8%, which is an increase of $16.4 million. While the reserve grew, educator salaries in Gilroy steadily decreased as a percentage of the district's total expenditures. Question: what percentage budget reserve do you believe Gilroy Unified should be maintaining? And do you believe educator salaries should be a greater budget priority than what they currently are?
Well, yeah, again, going back to teacher salaries, they need to be higher. And I think I'll agree with the district with that 7%, but the fact that they've gone over it for so many years doesn't make any sense by their own standards. And I think that really comes down to the district being financially unstable during the Great Recession. They went through a lot of hard times during that time, and they got scared that, I mean, we were so financially unstable during that time that they saved so much money to this point over all these years. And now we have so much in reserve, and it's come right out of the pockets of our teachers. And so I'd say we put it back in their pockets. I mean, really, I mean, I feel redundant having to say, give our teachers a raise, but it should, be an obvious fact for them. And it doesn't make any sense to me that they would keep that much in reserve. By their own standards, it's too much. It's so much money just sitting there. And I mean, yes, it comes in handy when we have things like the pandemic right now, but if it's more than what the state recommends, then, I mean, we should be fine. That's, 7% should be enough to handle crises like this. And we're just way too much in the reserve right now, just way, way too much. That's really all I'm going to say with that.
Thank you, Candidate Hurtado. Candidate Nelson, same question.
Yeah, when they went to 7, we were not happy about it. And now that they've increased to 16.8, that's completely uncalled for. And even during the recession, they didn't have to touch the reserve because we agreed to take a pay cut. So in the future, we can work with the district to manage the budget. They don't have to have that much in reserve. There's a backup plan. Going back to the salary thing, yeah, we need to increase the salaries. I lost track of how many slogans we had through the years. Like we just want to be average. Let us be average so that we're not in the basement. And the analogy I used many times was, if we're in the basement, everybody else is up here on the first floor, they're going to have to put in more money to even get us out of the basement so we can even compete on the playing field. We weren't even in competition. And that happened year after year, regardless of whether it was a good time or a bad time. And they always came up with some excuse as to why they couldn't afford to give us more. Commonplace to park some extra money is books and supplies. I say, well, just in case. But again, it goes back to the revolving door. We can't afford to continue doing this. We need to look at the priorities. That's all we need to do, is make teachers a priority, because they are the ones who do the teaching. And the superintendent, this Me Too thing, 2% salary increase for somebody at the bottom of the salary schedule is not the same as a 2% on a superintendent's salary. And I tried to explain that in the math problem, and they still don't get it. So I will make a point of that. And if a raise comes up for the superintendent for a Me Too, I will vote against it. Our priority must be the teachers in the classroom and the other staff members. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Nelson, why should the Gilroy Teacher Association consider you for an endorsement?
I have so much experience. The only thing I haven't done is lead a strike. I've done everything possible in negotiations. I know all the people, or I did know all the people, but because of the turnover, I don't know everybody anymore. But I've dealt with principals, I've dealt with personnel at the district office, I've dealt with board members, I've dealt with the superintendent, I still have her in my phone. I've dealt with all kinds of people. As the president also, I took a lot of heat for various decisions, so I'm used to that. And I have a thick skin, and I work very hard, and ask anybody about my work ethic. And once I start something, I'm not going to stop till I get to the bottom of something, and I will not give up. Some of the negotiations processes I participated in, the language, people said, why couldn't you get this done? So we got this much done, and the next time we'll get this much done, and the next time we'll get this much done. So I'm very patient, and I'm very persistent, and I do have tons of experience. Thank you.
Candidate Hurtado, same question.
I think I should be the sorry, I'm blanking right now. I should get your endorsement because I represent the people you're trying to serve. I'm coming in as a student, and I will continue to be a student, and I will learn from you, and I will take my cues from you. Any negotiation that we go into, I will take my cues from you and make sure we're meeting the proper things for our teachers, and that they're getting the right deal out of this negotiation, not some pennies from the district that they're willing to cough up through bit and teeth. I think I can, really be your champion on the board and be a definite vote for whatever you propose. I will take my cue from you and I will learn from you, because you're the teachers, you're the ones in the classroom, and you know best when it comes to the classroom environment. I would trust you over anybody really in district office who are just sitting there at their desks. There's so many district office, people in district office don't even know what half of them do. So, I will take my cues from you all the way, and I will listen to you. And that's why I'm happy to announce right now a new tab on my website, specifically for teachers, where you can fill out a form, and it can be, you can type in as much as you want. There's no word limit, and tell me what, issues you have with the district, what you're proud of with the district. I will personally read every single message that comes in, and I will, even if it's 5 paragraphs long, I will read it all personally. And I will make sure that, that doesn't stop when I'm on the board. I will listen to you, for years to come, because I really want to be the champion of the students, the teachers, and the parents, because that's the community. That's who the board should be representing, the community, and it shouldn't be representing the interest of businessmen and politics within district office. I want to give our teachers a fair cut, and I will make sure that they get what they deserve. Thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes all of our questions. I would like to thank the candidates Hurtado and Nelson, for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time tonight, and we wish you the very, very best of luck in your campaigns. Thank you.